All right, let's dive in. Today, we're looking into something pretty unsettling that happened in Hemlock Ridge.
Pretty unsettling case, yeah.
No, it's supposed to be this peaceful town,
Right.
but our source material today, The Vanishing of Lily Matthews, a true crime with a twist. Well, the title alone has me intrigued.
Yeah, Hemlock Ridge itself almost feels like um, part of the story, Like on the surface it seems idyllic, but
Right.
but
Yeah.
when you look closer, there's this sense that even peaceful places can have secrets.
Definitely. So let's talk about Lily Matthews. She's 24 years old, worked at a bookstore, a paper sparrow,
Mm-hmm.
and walked home every night the same path through the woods. Routine, normal, until December 3rd, 2022. What happened that night?
So that evening started like any other. Lily left work at 9 p.m., talked to her roommate Heather on the phone. Everything seemed normal.
Okay.
And during that call, Lily said, "I'm almost home. I'll be there in 10."
And that's the last anyone heard from her.
Yeah, that's the last known communication.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that Heather didn't think anything was wrong at first.
Right. She didn't report Lily missing until the next morning because she just assumed Lily was safe at home.
Of course.
It's only when Lily didn't show up for work that things got concerning.
So then we have this young woman vanishes without a trace. What did the police do?
So they started searching, right? They combed the woods, the streets, all the surrounding areas, but nothing. No sign of Lily. No struggle, no indication of where she could have gone.
So it's like she just disappeared into thin air
It really is.
until they find her phone, right? That's where things get weird.
Exactly. The phone was found in the woods, screen cracked, but it was still active. And the last message on it was that text to Heather saying, "I'm almost home."
Okay.
But then there's this chilling twist.
There's another text.
Another text, just one word, RON.
Wow. Even just reading that, it's creepy. So what could that second text mean?
That's the question that immediately turned this from a normal missing person case into something much more sinister. Was Lily in danger? Trying to warn Heather? Was someone trying to mislead the investigation? I mean, it's a piece that just doesn't fit.
It's a puzzle piece that doesn't fit. And then there's that CCTV footage. 2 hours after that last text, there's a man seen walking out of the woods near where they found Lily's phone.
Mm-hmm.
He's tall, thin, wearing a dark coat. His face is hidden in the shadows. I mean, the image itself is unsettling.
Absolutely. And what makes it even more unsettling is when you look closer at the footage, there's this shadowy female figure following the man. Her movements are described as unnatural, very precise.
Almost robotic.
Yeah, almost robotic. And the strange thing is, the man doesn't seem to notice her at all.
So that brings up the question, who is this woman? Could it be Lily?
That's the question, isn't it? And if it's not Lily, then who is she? What's her connection to the man? To Lily. And why doesn't he seem to see her?
Okay, so we have all this mystery. And then we learn that Lily was really into true crime podcasts.
Yeah. Particularly, she was into cases where people vanish and then reappear years later, but they're different, changed.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen a pattern in your research? Like people who disappear, were they drawn to these kinds of stories before?
That's really interesting. It's possible that Lily's interest wasn't just a hobby. Maybe it reflected something deeper, like a subconscious desire to experience something like that herself.
And then there's this journal entry, which is just chilling. Some of us aren't meant to be seen. Some of us just vanish.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like she knew.
Right. It really makes you wonder if she was trying to leave a clue, or if she was, if she had this growing fear, a premonition.
She was trying to tell us something.
Yeah, and this journal entry and her interest in disappearances, it could point to her struggling with her own identity.
Okay.
Like maybe she felt invisible in her own life and was drawn to stories of people vanishing because she was trying to make sense of her own feelings. So we have the vanishing, the texts, the footage, this journal entry. The investigation seems to hit a wall, and then Heather gets a package.
Right.
Weeks after Lily disappeared, she gets this anonymous package. Inside, there's a letter, and it's in Lily's handwriting.
This letter, it really is one of the most confusing pieces of evidence in the whole case. It makes you question everything.
I mean, the letter itself is both creepy and kind of vague. It says, "I'm not gone. I'm exactly where I've always been. You'll understand soon." What does that even mean?
Yeah, it's really hard to interpret. On the surface, it sounds like she might be alive, but she's changed somehow, or maybe she's somewhere we just don't understand.
Right.
But you also have to consider maybe it's a distraction, intentionally misleading the investigators.
Already.
Exactly. And the biggest questions are who sent it and why? We still don't have answers to those.
This letter and that journal entry, they make you think about disappearing in a whole new way. It's not always just about physically being gone.
That's true.
Sometimes it's about becoming invisible even when you're right there.
It's like disappearing in plain sight. And that idea, that seems to be at the core of this whole case.
So Heather, she gets this letter and it renews her hope. She can't let go of the idea that Lily's still out there. So she goes back to the woods.
It makes sense. She's desperate for answers, to find some trace of Lily. But what she finds in the woods, well, it changes everything.
She goes to the lake, the last place Lily was seen. Imagine the feeling, the fear, the hope. She calls out Lily's name, and then through the mist, she sees a figure at the edge of the water. A woman who looks like Lily, just standing there, her back turned.
It's like, after weeks of not knowing, finally, maybe there's an answer. But as Heather calls out and the figure turns, the truth becomes terrifyingly clear.
The woman standing there, it isn't Lily, it's the shadowy figure from the CCTV footage.
It's a complete shock. And it sends the whole investigation, it just plunges it deeper into this mystery. So, Lily Matthews' case, it's really a twisted story full of strange things happening. What seemed like a simple missing person case has become something much bigger, much more complicated.
Like we walked into some kind of Twilight Zone episode or something. The disappearance, the strange messages, that shadowy figure. It's all so bizarre. I mean, where do we even start trying to figure this out?
Right. Well, let's go back to what we know. We have a young woman, vanished, no trace. But she leaves behind these clues that don't make sense. Then there's that CCTV footage with the man and the shadow figure. It hints that maybe they're connected to Lily's disappearance.
Right.
And then weeks after she's gone, Heather gets that letter.
I'm not gone. I'm exactly where I've always been. You'll understand soon. I mean, that doesn't sound like a typical message from someone who's been kidnapped.
No, not at all. It's like she's saying she chose to be somewhere else. Or maybe even chose to be someone else.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
It's really hard to figure out what she meant. Is she hiding? Was she taken somewhere, but not in the way we usually think? Or did something happen that we can't even wrap our heads around? The possibilities are kind of crazy.
Then we have to think about her obsession with true crime, right?
Yeah.
Especially those cases where the victims come back, but years later, and they're different.
Yeah, that's something we can't ignore. Did Lily's fascination with these stories, did it somehow become her reality?
Like she brought it on herself.
In a way, maybe. Was she drawn to disappearing, becoming someone new? Or was she just in the wrong place at the wrong time? It's a question that keeps coming up in this case.
Almost like her life was imitating those very stories that she was so into. And then there's that journal entry, that line, some of us aren't meant to be seen, some of us just vanish. It gives me chills just thinking about it.
It does, doesn't it? It's like that sentence runs through the whole case. It's almost like it was a preview of what was going to happen.
Yeah, it really does.
But what if we stop focusing so much on Lily? What about the man in the footage and the shadow figure? How do they fit into all this?
Well, they were right there near where they found Lily's phone, so you can't just ignore them. The man, hiding his face, moving strangely, he's definitely suspicious, but it's the shadow figure that really gets to me.
She's creepy, like something from a nightmare.
Exactly. And the man doesn't even react to her. It's like she's not even there.
Like she's on a different level, you know? Maybe she's more symbolic, representing Lily's fears or something.
Wait, are you saying Lily could have become that shadow figure? That she somehow changed?
It's a possibility, even if it sounds crazy. Remember, Lily loved those stories where the victims reappear, but they're totally different. Maybe she didn't get kidnapped, but transformed, like she shifted to a different reality.
Okay, now that's really out there. But Heather saw the shadow figure at the lake, not Lily.
Right.
So if Lily did transform, where is she? And what about the man? Was he part of this transformation, or just a pawn in all this?
Good question. If the shadow figure isn't Lily, then who is she? How does she connect to Lily's disappearance? Is she protecting Lily, manipulating her, or something else entirely? And if they're connected, does that mean Lily's still out there somewhere, maybe trapped or hidden in a way we can't see?
Man, this is so confusing. Like trying to solve a puzzle, but half the pieces are missing, and we don't even know what the picture is supposed to be.
Exactly. We have to keep all possibilities on the table, even the weird ones. Because sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. In this case, well, the lines between reality and fantasy are totally blurred.
So what now? How do we even begin to understand all this?
We keep digging. We keep looking at the evidence, the theories, the rumors. We talk to the experts. We consider the psychological, even the paranormal. And most importantly, we keep asking questions, even if we don't get clear answers.
Because with a case like this, the truth has to be out there somewhere, no matter how strange it is.
Right. And as we continue to dive into Lily's disappearance, we have to be open to anything. The answers might be hidden, just outside of what we currently understand.
Maybe those answers are somewhere in the shadows. We'll be back after a quick break to talk about some of the wilder theories about Lily's disappearance. Don't go anywhere, we're just getting started. So we're back, and we've been digging into the disappearance of Lily Matthews. We've gone over the evidence, the timeline, the people involved. It's a strange one. Now let's get into some of the more out there theories about what happened to her. The ones that go beyond the usual police investigation and get into, the
Right. We should definitely be careful with these theories, but this whole case has been anything but normal. It almost makes you think about things you wouldn't normally consider.
Exactly. One theory that's gotten popular, especially online, is that Lily's disappearance is tied to how much she loved true crime. Those cases where people vanish and reappear years later, but they're different. Change.
Yeah, it's a theory that makes you think. Like maybe all those stories she was so into, they messed with her reality somehow. Maybe she, without realizing it, made herself vanish, just like in those narratives.
Like she was living in a world where what's real and what's not, it all got mixed up. But then where is she now? Stuck in some other dimension? Or did she just decide to disappear into a world she made up?
Those are tough questions. Even people who study the paranormal, they struggle with that. The unexplained is a big, confusing place. Logic and reason don't always get you answers there.
Right. And then there's that shadow woman. Some say she's not even human, but something supernatural, like a guide, a trickster, or some kind of sign. What do you think about that?
Well, there are a lot of old stories and myths about shadow figures. They often pop up as symbols of the unknown, the dark parts of our minds, or forces beyond what we understand. In this case, it's easy to think the shadow woman is more than human, especially with how she moves and how the man in the footage doesn't even see her.
It's like she's in a place we can't normally see, only visible when the line between our world and something else is thin. Could she be the key to figuring out what happened to Lily? Did she pull Lily into another dimension, or is she just a witness to something we don't get?
Yeah, it's hard to say what her role is. Is she a protector, a manipulator, or something else entirely? If we think about her symbolically, maybe she stands for Lily's deepest wants or fears, pushing her toward a change or a hidden truth.
It's all so strange. It's like we're dealing with this puzzle box,
Huh.
and each piece just makes it more complicated, less clear. We've looked at the facts, the theories, the psychology, even the paranormal, but we still have way more questions than answers.
And maybe that's the point. Maybe the real mystery of Lily Matthews isn't about finding a clear solution, but about accepting that there are things we'll never fully understand. There are forces out there that we may never grasp.
It makes you realize that the world is a much stranger, more amazing place than we usually think. There are mysteries that just don't make sense, that remind us of how much we don't know.
You got it. And maybe that's the most important thing we learned from digging into Lily Matthews' disappearance. It makes us question what we think we know, makes us more aware, and reminds us to be open to the mysteries around us.
I think you're right. We might not have solved this mystery, but we've definitely uncovered a lot of weird and interesting stuff. Who knows? Maybe someday there will be new evidence. Something that tells us what happened to Lily and what that shadow figure means. Until then, the mystery remains unsolved.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the unknown. Keep searching, keep asking questions, and stay open to the mysteries all around us.